Hi, everyone. Continuing this weekend of All Along the Watchtower. Yesterday, I listened to Bob Dylan's version, which I have to say I really enjoyed, and I've been thinking about it ever since. And, sometimes I have this question of, can it be made better? And I don't have the feeling that this cannot be made better, but at the same time, it's so good just the way it is. So I'm really curious now to see what it is about the Jimi Hendrix version that has so many of you saying, let's hear this, let's hear this, let's hear this. Well, Vlad hasn't allowed me to even open my iPad, so I don't know a thing of what's written there. I'm going to do that right now. And he wants me to read something here. The Hendrix version, released 6 months after Dylan's original recording, 6 months, became a top 20 single in 1968, received a Grammy Hall of Fame award in 2001, and was ranked 48th in Rolling Stone magazine's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time in 2004. Dylan's live performances have been influenced by Hendrix's cover to the extent that they have been called covers of a cover. Interesting. Well, I'm tempted then to listen to a Dylan live performance after having listened to this. But first I have to listen to this. Let's go.
There must be some kind of way out of here, said a joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. Businessman there to drink my wine, plowman dig my earth. None will level on the mine, nobody of it is worth. Hey.
So it has completely lost any sort of folk medieval quality to it. Absolutely. But it is much more, okay, I just heard the Joker, right? I'm curious to see what he does if he changes the voice when he gets to the thief. Whether he does or doesn't. It sounds like this is so much more, it's less a recitation of a parable, of a story, and it's more a living in the moment. We feel the immediacy of it and the personality of it. I guess I would say it has a much more alive personality. And that's not to say that I think that Bob Dylan's version was not colorful and alive in its own way. It was. But this is different. And it's a whole different way of handling the story and the characters and the voices and everything. Even the way we started with a bit of guitar melody before the voice even comes in.
Nobody of it is worth. Hey.
Crashing drums.
No reason to get excited. The thief be kindly spoke. There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke. But you and I, we've been through that.
So I just have to back up a little bit and hear these sort of guitar vocals.
There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke. But you and I, we've been
have to stop. I have to stop because not because I want to interrupt it, but because I have to say so. I have to tell you what I'm thinking along the way. So this is a much more, I guess I would say it's okay, let me back up because so much has passed since I wanted to say what I was going to say. Let's go here.
And this is not our fate. So let us start talking falsely now. The hour's getting late. Hey!
It's more wild, it's more rugged, it's more unpredictable, like a joker and a thief talking, right? Even the music itself feels much more even a bit scary, not because the music is scary, but because you don't exactly know what's going to happen next. And it's funny because you've heard me talk about my first impressions and my first experiences of Bob Dylan's vocal style, singing style, which is rather declamatory. And his version of that yesterday was not at all like that. It was much more song style. And here I'm hearing Hendrix do more of what I first heard Dylan do, and which really stuck in my mind as a sort of Dylan stylistic characteristic. But now I hear shades of it sometimes in how Hendrix is singing. This is the texture of this. The tonal texture of it is really kind of jangly, clashy, crashy, a lot of drums, a lot of tambourine, kind of percussive, jangly sound, and even the guitar tonally tends that direction, which I think is one of the things that makes me feel like it is more raw, more could say, although it's a bit unfair to call it more raw, but I'm going to say more raw, more emotionally passionate, and more like we are dealing with the unpredictability of a joker and a thief interacting together.
The hour's getting late. Hey!
The way this guitar comes singing. See this? Did we expect this? I didn't. And the bass down there. The exclamations, the vocal shouts and exclamatory expressions. Rather like I love the way the guitar and the drums. So I've talked about how I often hear the bass as being a sort of glue, a sort of binder between the drums and the guitar. But here in this passage, it's interesting to hear. It feels like the bass is doing its thing. It's serving the role of the bass. But the drums and the guitar are texturally, rhythmically, very tight together and kind of working as one to create some really wonderful, interesting textures and sonic experiences here.
All along the Watchtower, princess kept the view, while all the women came and went, barefoot servants too. Well, outside in the cold distance,
You hear the drums starting to
a wildcat did growl.
create the sense of inevitability, inescapability.
And the wind began to howl. Hey!
Okay, that last bit there, I know it has to do with the way it was recorded and the way it was handled in the studio. The way the sound went from one side to the other in my headphones. But it was so evocative. It made me feel like I was listening to something off in the distance. I was hearing something, but I'm in the middle of a storm and the wind is changing directions and the rain is beating and I'm trying to make out, what am I hearing off in the distance? Where is it coming from? But it's changing directions. It, like I said with Bob Dylan's performance, the way the harmonica started to evoke the idea of the wind beginning to howl at the end and the incredible dissonance. This was different. This was more like a whole storm in the middle of the night at the end here. And I was lost in the middle of it. And even though this piece of music has completely laid aside and left behind any sort of hints at folk, medieval, sonic suggestions, I'll say. It's solidly in the rock and the blues rock sound, and I'm just thinking this was just 6 months after Bob Dylan's performance, first recording, so there's a lot happening here stylistically, developing rapidly between these two artists and the way one is taking the other's work. But I still feel like, especially because of the lyrics and the idea, Joker, the thief, all along the Watchtower, princes kept the view. There's still lyrically this reference to that kind of world, right? Even if it's symbolic, it becomes much more symbolic, but still. All along the Watchtower, princes kept the view, while all the women came and went, barefoot servants too. Outside in the distance, a wild cat did growl. And I feel like this was placing me outside. I was no longer in the safety of the castle. I was outside in the storm, and I was hearing these two wild riders approaching, and there's this danger, and I'm trying to see through the driving rain and the mist, and it's this feeling of a really, it's painting less of a picture than Dylan's version, and creating more of an emotional state. And I feel like this one really captures us. I don't want to say it captures our imagination. At least doesn't capture my imagination. It doesn't paint so many pictures. It's more like the music itself is the picture. I hear it and I feel it in the music and I experience it through the music rather than through the music painting some images and story in my mind. I hope that makes sense. I hope that you understand what I'm driving at here between these two performances. But this one, at the end, it does get to be so, and it's built up to this all the way through. Such an experience. I started to say something and then I just didn't want to talk. I just wanted to stand out there in the storm and hear it and feel it swirling around me. And I'm just going to listen to it one more time here towards the end before I take my headphones off.
Loves you while all the women came and went.
The bass, the drums. His voice is so colorful. The way the bass starts running, and then the drums clatter and clash, and here we are. With that guitar. And now I start to feel like, where is it coming from? And listening to that ending a second time, I noticed more the guitar and the way it started rising and rising and rising until it got to that top note, kind of like an operatic soprano holding out the last note forever and ever. Well, the guitar is doing a sort of tremolo, but it gave me the same feeling of I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and there's a suspense and there's this excitement and it goes on and on and on and on, and I start to feel like I'm waiting for it to catch a breath. A simple little song, isn't it? 12 lines of text. Something about a joker and a thief, a simple conversation. And then a couple lines about life going on, and then a couple lines about what's coming next, or what's happening, which lets us know what's coming next. That's it. That's it. The melody, so incredibly simple. The musical design of it, so basic in so many ways. And yet, when you take each one of these elements and, if I were to sit down and do an in-depth of this, it would certainly involve an in-depth of the lyrics, because they are really the primary driver and shaper of this music. Sometimes the music shapes the lyrics. Sometimes the lyrics shape the music. In this case, the lyrics are clearly in the driver's seat, in both versions, really. And the music has to submit to what the lyrics are saying. But at the same time, the music itself enhances and colors and fills out some of what is left unsaid in the lyrics, because, as I said yesterday, it's really quite a minimalistic story, if we can even call it a story. It's more like a prelude to a story. A little introduction, setting the characters, a preliminary conversation, and then we expect the story to begin. And instead, that's it. So it suddenly becomes all about that conversation. And then the fact that those two writers, the Joker and the Thief, are approaching and the wind begins to howl. I mean, there's so much there that we could unpack if we were to spend a couple hours talking about it together. And I would really love to hear your reasons for loving this piece, because there is a lot to love about it. But I would love to hear what it is to you personally that is so compelling about this song, whether it is Hendrix or Dylan, or if it's more lyrical or if it's more musical. With Dylan's, for me, it was the harmonica, really. It was the harmonica that really made it stand up and stand out. With Hendrix, it's the whole blend and the excitement and the rugged, rustic, raw, kind of rebel feel to it that fits so well with the characters and the story. And the way it ended with all that me outside in the middle of the storm, that was just great. So I'm looking forward to hearing what all of you have to say about these. But thank you to each of you who voted for this. It was certainly a worthwhile experience, and one that I've been kind of waiting for a long time, because so many of you have mentioned it along the way on this journey, and I knew it would come. Here it is, all along the Watchtower, and this was the Jimi Hendrix version. I'll see you soon.